In this video, we are going to take a look at the step-by-step process to build a flight recommendation system using a combination of technologies like FastAPI, which is a high-performance framework to build APIs with Python 3.8+. We're going to be using Next.js, which is the React framework for the web, Tailwind CSS, which is a CSS framework for building custom designs. We're going to be using Fireworks, which will host our LLMs. It's a blazing fast LLM inference platform. We are also going to use SerpAPI, which is a real-time API to access Google search results. Let's go ahead to the Visual Studio Code editor. So we have this opened. I've selected a folder called 618 flight recommendation. We open up our terminal and we are going to create a new environment. So I'm going to use conda. So conda create -n for the name. Let's create YouTube as the environment name. Let's go with Python 3.11 and -y. So this is going to create a new conda environment. Now we are going to activate the environment. So conda activate YouTube. So we're inside this environment now. Let's clear this up. CLS. Now we need to make a new directory. Let's make a new directory, mkdir. I'm going to call this GenAI. Let's say GenAI functions. And we see that a new directory has been created. Let's go inside the new directory. So cd GenAI functions. So we're inside the directory now. Now we need to install a few dependencies. The first being FastAPI. This is pip install FastAPI uvicorn. The next will be OpenAI. So once this is installed, we are going to install OpenAI. So pip install OpenAI. Next we are going to install Fireworks AI. Next we are going to install Google search results, which is the SerpAPI. Now after this installation, we can go ahead and code up. But before that, I would like to set the environment variables for the SerpAPI as well. So what you can do is we can set our SerpAPI. So set the SerpAPI key as the API key that you can find from the SerpAPI page. So I'm gonna just grab my API keys and put it here. Now another API key that we need is the Fireworks API key itself. So we can set that as well. To set Fireworks API key, grab the API key from your account and we can paste it here. So having set these two API keys, we can now go ahead and code our main program. So let's create a file called main.py. And this is the file which will be our backend. So the FastAPI will be run here and all the backend stuff will be done here. So I've already coded this up. I'm just going to paste this and explain this while we go through the code now. So first of all, let's go through the code. So first we need to import the OS, some imports here. So OS module to use the environment variables you have set. The list module or class is to denote a list of elements of specified type. The JSON that we use here is to parse string model outputs as JSON. This datetime module to get today's date. OpenAI module to conveniently call OpenAI API. But we're not going to use that directly, but instead we are going to use that from the Fireworks API. Next is the SerpAPI module to scrap and parse search results from Google search. The base model that we have here is a class to define models of request body FastAPI endpoints. Then we have the course middleware. This is the FastAPI middleware to enable cross-origin resource sharing of FastAPI endpoints. Now having said that, we need to define two classes here. Now these two classes, the first class, the name of the class is message. It inherits from the base model. It's a model that will store each message containing two fields. So the first field is the role, and then we have the content. The next messages class it also inherits from the base model. It will store the inputs as a list of message models. So next we initialize the FastAPI app. So the above code that we see here is to allow different origins. So for example, it will allow this to be called, the FastAPI to be called from different origins. We can allow these methods, all the methods. We put a star here. We could choose, for example, only the get method could be allowed, or the post method could be allowed. So these are the different things that you can allow, but in this case we are allowing everything. We are allowing every header, every method, we allow credentials, and we allow any origin for this. Next we take the today's date. So datetime.today is this. Next, this is an important thing that we need to make. This is the function calling itself. So for the function calling, we need to define some tools. So these are the tools, just one tool here, but you can see the structure of this tool. It's the same as we use for OpenAI. So the name of this function or this tool is the flight generator. This is a function type. This is a description of the tool. So extract flight details from the user prompts, and these are the parameters. So parameters, there are 4 parameters. So you can see departure ID here. This is a string, and this is the description. So the description is that this represents the departure airport code in 3 letters. If you find a name of the country from user prompt, locate the most busiest airport and use it IATA based 3-letter code. Else, if you find an airport in the prompt, use its IATA based airport code. Again, we have the departure date. This is a string. It represents a date. If the date is not mentioned, you can use the today's date. Again, we have the arrival ID and the arrival date. And the required fields are all these 4 fields. So departure ID, departure date, arrival ID, arrival date. So these 4 things will be extracted from your prompt. So whenever a user inputs any sentences, so this model will search for these 4 things. For example, I want to book a flight from Paris to Zurich on 28th October 2024. So the departure ID will be Paris, the arrival ID will be Zurich, and the departure date and arrival date will be 28th of October 2024. So the task of identifying all the 4 variables here goes to the LLM, and the LLM has a responsibility to find out. But this is how we describe a tool. You can see my other videos as well, how to describe the tools, but this is a very easy example and a standard example of how we define tools. So once we define this tool, we are going to use this API Fireworks Inference engine. So we are not going to use OpenAI directly, but although we have the same syntax as the OpenAI, you can see most of the programs have the similar syntax of OpenAI, so that you can just swap the base URL here. So you can swap this base URL. If you're using a local LLM, you can swap this with your Ollama. But since we are using a function calling model, it's a little bit complicated. So we are using a different language model that will be good for this case. Now, Firefunction v2 is a function calling LLM that can help you build agentic use case like chat assistants that involve function calling abilities alongside general chat capabilities. In the code below, we are defining a set of tools utilizing Firefunction v2, as you have already seen. These tools, and the Firefunction will try to establish and find out the required 4 things here. That's already said. We start up this client, and once you define this client using this base URL as the Fireworks Inference engine, we have already loaded up the API keys for the Fireworks. As you have already seen, we have set the API keys for the Fireworks. Then we need to define a chat endpoint. So /chat, this is an endpoint in our FastAPI application, and This, what it does is that it accepts a list of messages that could be a specified natural language format. For example, as I've already mentioned, flights from Paris to Zurich this Sunday or this 20th of October 2024. It defines the system prompt to let the assistants be able to call the Fireworks function you have defined earlier using tool arrays. Now, for example, if you see this message, this function chat takes in an input of messages, a single input of messages. Again, this messages is a list of message, as you have defined in the Pydantic class here. We have seen that this messages is a list of message, and each of the message has to have a role and a content. Otherwise, you'll get syntax error and whatnot. So whatever message that we put or ask this endpoint, it should have this messages format, which is a list of message, and that message should be as a user and the question that is asked. So message JSON underscore JSON is messages.model dump and messages. Then we can see this output. So let's say our role is a user, and I ask this question of tell me flights from Paris to Zurich on 21st October 2024. Now we create this knowledge variable. We insert this knowledge variable in the place 0. So we add a message underscore JSON. We add one more. So what happens is that the message underscore JSON has now two things. The first is this is a system role, and the next is this is a user role. Now we can send that entire thing to chat completion. So client, you've already defined client chat completion chat tools and this, and we put in all the messages here. And tools, if you remember, tools is the exact available tools that it shows. In our case, we have just the flight generator here, and our LLM will try to find out the departure ID, departure date, arrival ID, and arrival date from the message that we have sent here. So once we have, and you can see this is the Firefunction model that we have used. So once we get the chat completion, we can extract the required thing, which is the tool call function, and then we extract the arguments of that function. So the final arguments that you will get is this format. So it was able to extract, for me, for example, it was able to extract the Paris here. It was able to extract the arrival ID of Zurich and the departure date and the arrival date. So this is one part. This is the final arguments that we got. The params, we define a new function or new variable, which is params, and the params initially we had API key of the SerpAPI key. And if final args of arrival date, which means this thing is available and final args is not empty, then we can update the params. So in the params, we add the English language here, USD, we add Google Flights, and from the final args, we add the arrival ID. For the return date, we add the final args arrival date, departure ID, and departure date. So this is the new format that is the params here, and this params is sent to the Google search and we get the results. Once we get the results, we store it in the RESP response, and then we return these things. So we start up a loop. So for flight in response of best flights, and inside the best flights, we take in the first 3 flights. Let's say from Paris to Zurich, we have 3 flights which connects from Paris to Zurich. Then we will be able to display the 3 single flights there. But this is again a loop inside a loop, and then we print this. So the final output that you can expect is this, where we have flights, price, airline logo, then arrival airport name, arrival airport time, departure airport name, and departure airport time. Okay, so let's run this. We can run this by using a very simple command for the FastAPI, which is called the uvicorn, using uvicorn. So uvicorn main app and reload. So once you run this, okay, somehow we messed up. So this main should be inside the generative AI functions. Okay, now it should run. So we can see that it's running here and our backend is ready. So the chat endpoint is ready for our backend. Now let's move on to the front end part. So let's create a new terminal here, and here we are going to run the front end part. So for creating the front end, we need to have a Node.js install. You can go to Google and download the Node.js for your particular PC. Then what you can do is you can say npx create next app at the rate latest gen AI UA. So this will start up a new Nextjs application. So again, in summarize, we have our backend service, which is the LLM, and the API is ready, which is running on localhost 8000, as you can see here. And now we are making the front end part. So for creating the front end, we gave this command of npx next app latest gen UI. So when it says, would you like to use TypeScript, you can say yes. Would you like to use SLN? No. CSS, yes. Source directory, no, maybe. Then we can say the app router, yes, and customize, no. So this is going to install this. We have a new folder now, which is Gen AI UA, your Gen AI -UI, and it is going to install a template for us basically. So next, what you can do is we can go inside that folder, which is Gen AI -UI. So let it install first, and then we are going to go inside Gen AI. So it seems this is done. Next, you can go inside the Gen AI. So inside Gen AI UI. And once you're inside this, you can run npm run dev. So this will start up the development environment of Node.js here, and it's now running on localhost 3000. So that's okay. Now we can stop this and move ahead with our version of the front end. So what you can do now is you can install the npm install AI at the rate 2235. This AI library is used to build AI-powered streaming apps and chat UIs. Next, inside the app directory, we can replace the code inside the page. You can go to the app directory. We can go and replace the page.txt here. So we can replace everything here with the new things that we have written. But for this, I am going to give you the code in a GitHub repo, and you can just copy the code from that repo. So you can go. So let me delete everything and paste this here. So what it does is it is going to import the use chat hook from the AI SDK to manage the conversation between the user and the application. It takes care of saving the entire application on the client side and using them as a request body when it calls the user-defined AI API endpoint to fetch the response from chatbot. Now we export a default function here. We export a React component that returns a form containing an input element to allow users to enter their query. Then it loops over all the messages in the entire conversation, including the latest response. Finally, it loops over all the flights and give you the output. So to run this, what you can do is we can say npm run build. So npm run build, and you can run npm run start. So this should be the end, npm run build and npm run start. Now this is going to run this app. It's going to prepare everything, prepare the code for you. So in summary, what we have done is in this tutorial, we have learned how to create a real-time recommendation system using SerpAPI and Fireworks AI. With Fireworks Firefunction v2, you are able to identify exactly the set parameters from a dynamically received user input and defining a set of pre-knowledge to help the AI predict the user needs even better. Just imagine the convenience of planning your next adventure. So now it's running on localhost 3000. We can go ahead and have a look. Okay, having done everything that we could, now it's time to run. So we have the backend running here in the 8000 port, and we have our frontend running here in the localhost 3000. So we click on 3000 and you can see this wonderful input place where you can put anything you want. So let's put, for example, give me flights from Paris to Zurich this Monday maybe, and just press enter. Let's wait for the results with a positive hope that it should come. So we can see that we have the Swiss Airlines of USD 286 from the Paris Charles de, I don't know how to pronounce, but it's on 15/10/2024. We have a flight from at 6:45, and we will reach Zurich airport on the same day in about 2.5 hours. No, about 1 hour 15 minutes. So as you can see, the next one is this 286 and the next one is 478. We can ask another question. Okay, let's ask the reverse direction. So I can say, can you tell me the flights from Zurich to Paris dated, let's say, on 30th of November 2024. Let's see if we can get some outputs here in the reverse direction. So we can see these flights are available, and this is the price, and this is the departure time and arrival time. So as you can see, this is pretty cool. So I am going to paste in this code to a GitHub repo. Okay, you know what I can do? I can put this on GitHub and you can have a look and just download this code, follow the video, and go through the steps that I've gone through. So that's it. This is in response to the comments from one of my subscribers. He wanted to have a full functionality, an app which is fully functional. He wanted to sort of touch the backend and the front end space, and he wanted to have a full stack development of this app using AI. So the technology stuff that we have touched is Fireworks, which hosts the LLMs, FastAPI to make the APIs. We have touched on React, touched on Tailwind CSS, how to put in the front end, how to load the backend, how to make the API calls. There's so many things that we have seen in this video, and I'm so much excited that I was able to make this video, and I will be back with creating more such videos. But in the meantime, if you want to have a deep dive into how we can easily fine-tune your models in just 10 minutes, you can watch the next videos. I would like to thank my Patreons and my subscribers for following me and supporting me in every endeavor that I do. So please join my Patreon, and I will see you there. Watch this next video. Thank you so much. Adios.